Good morning, everybody. Good Devach. Hope you had a wonderful Shabbos. Today we are learning the eighth Perek of Yevamos, and today's shir is Schus um, Ilay Nishmas Rusbas Sukkah Kohen Aronachman Sukkah Kohen Rishon Morchem Shep Sabrach Shabbos Moaled Moshe Ben Yosef made that Hashem will have an aliyah and a refuah shlema to Yisrael Ben Leah Yerocha Bas Basel Zelda Avram Yisrael Ben Risha Chai Bas Delabela refuah shlema of Sol Shar Chol Yisrael, and the seer is also schus for Yifkes Kavanach Ben Rivka Eliyahu Ben Chana David Ben Esther, and um, there's also refuah shlema to some of the people who were injured in the attack in Arad over Shabbos. Rivka Perel Bas Malka, Asher Tzvi ben Rivka Perel, Shlomo ben Rivka Perel, Simcha Bunin ben Rivka Perel, and all the other Cholim. May Hashem protect them and bring them back to Refuah Shlema and protect all Gans Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. And also thank you to our good friends from the Imperial Advisory Group for sponsoring Seder Moed, Seder Nashim, Seder Nashim. If you need help with your CFO stuff for your company, please reach out to them directly at imperialgrp.com. Okay, here we go. Mishnah Perek Pes Mishnah Aleph Ha'arel. Ha'arel v'chalat tamim lo yochlu b'truma. A Kohen who does not have a bris milah is uncircumcised, and all Kohanim who are tamei may not eat truma. Neshehen v'avdehen yochel b'truma. But their wives and their slaves, however, they can eat truma since their husband or the master is a full-fledged Kohen. It's just that he personally may not eat truma because he is not circumcised or tamei. I mean, how did he get married if he's an Arab? Different question, different time. But the law for a Kohen who with wounded Beitzim and a Kohen who has a severed um, Aver, they are ushered to marry Jewish women of proper lineage because they cannot father children. They and their slaves may not, they can eat truma since these injuries do not make them lose their Kohen status. When a Sheim, their wives who are kosher women, they cannot eat truma because when a woman has bia with someone who's usher to her, she is disqualified from eating truma going forward. If, however, the Kohen did not have bia with her from the time that he was wounded, then these wives can eat truma because the woman is not disqualified from eating truma if she stays married to someone who's usher. Only if she has bia with him does that disqualify her. So they got married and he was fine and everything was working properly. And then something happened along the way. They had some sort of accident, and now he's unable to father children. That seems to be what the Mishnah is talking about over here. Can she stay married to her husband or not? Mishnah Beis, Ezo Patsuadaka, who is a man with wounded Beitzim? Any man whose Beitzim have been wounded in a way that makes him unable to father children. That's what just said. And even if only one of his Beitzim is wounded in this way, it's still a problem. And who is a man that has a severed Aver? Again, any man in whom even part of the member of the Aver has been severed. If, however, the injury is such that a section of the tip remains, even if that section is as thin as a strand of hair, then we can be sure that the Aver itself was not severed at all. Kosher, and therefore he is fit to marry a woman of proper Jewish lineage. A man with wounded beitzim and a man with a severed member are allowed to marry a ger, a gioris really, or a shif Canaanis who is freed, both of whom are Jewish. But einan asurim elo b'kal. They are forbidden only from entering the tzibur, meaning marrying women of proper Jewish lineage. So now, as the pasuk says in, I think it's Kisete, Lo yavo pasudat Krishapa Bekalishan. The pasuk says clearly that a man with crushed beitzim or a severed aver shall not enter the congregation of Hashem. That's the pasuk. So the mefarshim, the Shulchan Aruch is mechulek whether a man with this issue can marry a mamzeres. That's a chiluk in the machlokas in the post. Okay, Mishnah Gimel. Ammoni, Moavi, Asurim. Jewish converts in the nations of Ammon and Moab are also to marry a Jewish woman of proper lineage. The Isuran Isser Olam. And their Isser is everlasting Isser. That is the ger, his son, and his son's son, and so on forever. They all usher. They can however marry converts and mamzerim, and the pasuk says that lo yavo amoni amavi b'kal Hashem ad dor hasiri, right? Then Ammonite and a Moabite may not join the congregation of Hashem, even their 10th generation may not join the congregation of Hashem forever. But aval the Kuvaseihem terrorist yet. However, females from Ammon and Moab who are magayer to Judaism, they are permitted to marry Jewish men of proper Jewish lineage immediately upon their conversion. And the famous example over here is Rus, which is where this whole thing was challenged from. Right? Moab, Moabis. Okay. Jewish converts from the nations of Egypt and Edom are also to marry Jews of proper lineage only up to 3 generations, meaning that the convert and the ger and his children are usher, but his grandchildren are mutter. And both males and females in these nations are included in the isser. Shimon, however, permits females from Egypt and Edom to a Jewish man of proper lineage immediately upon their conversion. All right, Rabbi Shimon says, Kal v'chomer hadvarim. This issue can be proven through Kal v'chomer, comparing converts from Ammon and Moab to those from Egypt and Edom. What's the Kal v'chomer? Ma im makush asur zatzichem asur Yisr olam hitteres and teres v'yad. And if in the case of Ammon and Moab, where the Torah asers the males forever, it still permits the females immediately. Makom shlo asers azucharim ela ashlosha doros eino din shenatir es anikiris miyad. Then in the case of Egypt and Edom, where the Torah asers the males only up until 3 generations, does it not make sense that we should also permit the females immediately? The Chachamim responded to Shimon. If you receive this law as a tradition, as a Masorah from your teachers, we will accept it. But if it was based only on the logic of the Kal v'chomer, there was a response that makes the Kal v'chomer irrelevant. The Torah explains why it answers gerim from Ammon and Moab. So what happened? So when the Jews left Egypt, passed by these lands, the people there failed to greet them with bread and water. Now, this is only a fault in their men, because the men went out to greet them, but the women were not expected to go out and greet the travelers. Therefore, since the women did nothing wrong, it makes sense to permit the female converts. But when it comes to converts from Mitzrayim and Edom, there's no basis to differentiate between males and females. Rabbi Shimon responded to him, Rabbi Shimon responded to him, Lo, it's not so. The Kal V'chomer is logical, and your response is incorrect, because the women of Ammon and Moab did fail. They should agree to the Jewish women. And the Torah still permits the female converts. The same should certainly hold true than for female converts from Egypt and Edom. Halacha ani omer. But in any case, I'm saying a law that I received as a tradition from my teachers, and you should accept it. Mamzerin unasinin chasurin. Mamzerin and Nasins in the Nasim was a descendant from the Devonim. They are forbidden to marry Jewish women of proper lineage. The Isuran Isser Olam, and their Isser, and the Isser is an everlasting Isser, goes on for all time. And both males and females are included in this Isser. Okay, Mishnah Dalit. So, Rabbi Yeshua said, Shamati Saris Chalis V'Chaltzim Leishto. I heard from my teachers that a certain type of sterile man performs chalitza with his brother's widow, and his brothers perform chalitza with his wife should he die childless. But Saris lo chalitza lo chaltzim leishto, and that a different type of sterile man does not perform chalitza with his brother's wife, and his brothers do not perform chalitza with his wife. They live farish. I have no way to explain which type needs chalitza and which does not. So Rabbi Akiva explained it. I need a farish. I'll explain these statements. Saris Adam, someone who was born healthy, who became sterile through an injury inflicted by man, chalitz v'chosim leishto. Then they performs chalitza with his brother's wife, and his brothers perform chalitza with his wife. So the case arise. If nei shahaisa lo shasa kosher, because he had a time in his life when he was fit to have children. Saris chama, but when someone who's sterile from birth, lo chalitz lo chosim leishto, does not perform chalitza with his brother's wife, and his brothers do not perform chalitza with his wife, because he never had a time in his life when he was fit to have children. Rabbi Eliezer says, low key, that's not true. Rather, someone who was started from birth, chalitz v'chosim leishto, performs chalitza with his brother's wife, and his brothers perform chalitza with his wife, because he can usually be healed and you not stay sterile forever. So since he can be healed and would then be able to preserve his brother's name, he can perform chalitza, and since his name would not have to be erased from Klal Yisrael, his brothers can perform chalitza. Okay, that's according to the Bartanura. Okay. Okay. Saris what when someone who was sterile through an injury inflicted by man, they do not perform. He does not perform chalitza with his brother's wife, and his brothers do not perform chalitza with his wife. If they because he cannot be healed and will stay sterile forever. Hayid Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira al ben Megusa Shahayib Yerushalayim Saris Adam. Rabbi Yeshua ben Beseira testified about a man named Ben Megusas who was in Yerushalayim and was sterile through an injury inflicted by man. The Yivmu es Ishto, and when Ben Megusas died, the Chachamim permitted his brother to perform Yibum with his wife. The Kayim de Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shimon gave this aid to support the words of Rabbi Akiva, who ruled that the brothers perform chalitza with the wife of a man who became sterile through injury. They may similarly perform ibum with her. Mishnah Hey. Continuing it with ibum and chalitza, people cannot have children. Asaris lo chalitz lo miyavim. One who is sterile from birth does not perform chalitza or ibum, as Rabbi Akiva taught in the previous Mishnah. And so too, in islandness, a woman who can never have children does not perform chalitza, is not taken in even if her husband dies without children. Hasaris shechalatz livimto, if one who is sterile from birth performs chalitza with his yevama, Lo pasla, he does not disqualify her from marrying a Kohen. Although a woman who receives chalitza is usually forbidden to marry a Kohen, this chalitza is meaningless since there is no yibum bond between the sterile man and the Yevamos. But if he cohabits with her, pasla, he does disqualify her from marrying a Kohen. Nus, because it is a forbidden act of bia. It's usher for a brother's wife when to have a it's usher to be with a brother's wife when there's no mitzvah of ibum, and a woman who's engaged in a in bia be'isser is usher to a kohen. The chayin islandness shechalsul la'achin. So too, if there's an islandess with whom the brothers did chalitza, lo pasluha, they did not disqualify her from marrying kohen because the chalitza is meaningless since there's no yibum bond between them. But if they had be with her pasluha, then they do disqualify her. There's neish to be lasa be nus because the bia that they have with her is aser, and it's like znush, and therefore there's no mitzvah yibum with her. And the last Mishnah for today, Mishnah Vav. Saris Chama, Kohen Shenasta Bas Yisrael. The Kohen who is sterile from birth marries the daughter of Yisrael. Machila b'tshuma. He enables her to eat truma. She is allowed because a Kohen who is sterile from a Kohen became sterile from an injury may not marry a Jewish woman of proper lineage that disqualifies her from eating truma. This Kohen but this Kohen is still from birth. He's allowed to marry her, and therefore does not disqualify her. Rabbi Yossi or Shimon, I remember Yossi or Shimon say, androgynous Kohen should not Bas Yisrael. The Kohen who is an androgynous, androgynous we discussed many times, is someone who is born with both male and female reproductive organs. So, if he marries the daughter of Yisrael, Bas Yisrael, he enables her to eat truma because androgynous can eat truma, and she's like any other Kohen's wife. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Tum tum shenikra v'nimsa zacher." A tum tum whose skin is torn open so that its private parts can be seen, and is found to have male organs and is therefore a male. Well, Yachus does not perform chalitza with his brother's wife because he is unable to find children is considered sterile. Androgynous now say, and androgynous is considered a man, so he may marry a woman, although Nisa, but he may not be married to a man, since bia of two men is usher under the penalty of skila, Misa skila. The man and the androgynous gets this punishment whether they have bia in the way of two men or in the way of a man and a woman. Either way, if a androgynous marries a man, then they chayiv for the chayiv skila. Rabbi Lezer says, androgynous chayavim alav skila kizacher. That men who cohabit, who have bia with an androgynous, they are chayiv, the chayiv skila, only for doing this act with him as they would with a man and not with a woman. That's all for today. We'll see you tomorrow for Perek. Have a wonderful day.